Okay, we'll start. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making time today to attend today's webinar. So I am Jubert Marquez, a PhD candidate from University in Busan and the current president of Pinoy Scholars sa Korea, or PIKO, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Thank you for making time again to participate today, and I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar offering by PIKO. I would like to remind everyone that the participants are strictly not allowed to record the webinar, and we will be recording rather a copy after the presentation proper, only upon request. The webinar will be conducted in both English and Filipino, so please feel free to talk in whichever language you are comfortable with. Seeing that everyone here, or most of the participants here today, are coming from the Philippines, I'd like to briefly introduce the host organization for today, which is PIKO. PIKO, or Pinoy Scholars sa Korea, or Filipino Scholars in Korea, is the official student organization recognized by the Philippine Embassy in Korea. Established in 2006, PIKO is committed to the promotion of fellowship and cooperation among Filipino students in the Republic of Korea. Our commitment is to develop our members' potentials and encourage social and intellectual exchange between and among Filipino students in Korea and abroad. PIKO tries to serve as an accurate source of information about South Korea in general, most especially regarding educational and scholarship opportunities for interested Filipinos. For today's webinar, our guest speaker will be lecturing on how we can effectively communicate the results and data of our research. Dr. Marilen Parungao Balolong is currently a professor of microbiology at the Department of Biology and a university scientist serving as the Associate Dean for Research and Public Service of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of the Philippines in Manila and a Diplomate of the Philippine Academy for Microbiology. She was trained as a microbiologist since 1993, starting in UP Los Baños with a major in microbiology, BS in biology, and MS in microbiology, minor in biochemistry. And in UP Manila, where she obtained the degree in Doctor of Public Health in Medical Microbiology last 2015. Almost 25 years in research and more than 15 years in teaching. As an academic scientist, she has authored and co-authored more than 40 local and international high-impact publications. Her mentoring produced award-winning student research and publications, both here and abroad, locally and abroad. Prior to receiving the UP Scientist 1 distinction, Dr. Balolong was also recently awarded the Outstanding Scientific Paper Award for 2018 and 2020 for her work on antigen delivery and antibiotic resistance, respectively, by the National Academy of Science and Technology, and the 2018 Outstanding ASEAN Science Diplomate by the ASEAN Foundation, Environmental Climate Change Research Institute, and the Harvard Kennedy School in recognition of her contributions in the fields of microbiological and environmental research towards the development of a climate change resilient ASEAN region. Together with her students and research collaborators, Dr. Balolong heads the Applied Microbiology for Health and Environment Research Group, or AMHERG, advocating for One Health and Planetary Health, a research group housed in the College of Arts and Sciences in UP Manila, which aims to address issues concerning health and environment through applied microbiology and molecular biology research approaches. So without further ado, I am introducing you again, Dr. Marilen Parungao Balolong, to present her topic for today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jubert, for that very long introduction. I would be happy to be introduced as just Len, and previously from Korea, one of them, no, one of the PIKO members during that time. And this is, of course, I'm very thankful for the invitation, no, that PIKO has given me. This is one of my advocacies to really let people know, whether starting scientists, graduate students, or starting students, would appreciate converting, no, or translating their data, no, into useful form, whether it's going to be publication or other else. No? Is my video okay? Hindi ba ako madilim? Can everybody see me? So I'll be starting for this afternoon's talk. I'll be introducing the scientific writing toolbox. No? I'm sure every one of you have already are already familiar, no, sa mga kumbaga yung highly technical definitions of what an article is, ano yung laman ng article, no? So basically the bulk of this talk this afternoon would be more on tips on how to jumpstart everyone, no? How to jumpstart everyone to writing their publication. Okay, so I titled this as connecting nuts and bolts, no? So kasi now your data will be nuts and bolts. They should fit together, right? No? So for you to have an effective communication and dissemination, no? So Jubert will be forwarding my slide, no? So next slide, please. Okay. Most of you have your Dear Diary moment, di ba? So, sa mga piko, yan, no? The acceptance, no? Yung malaman mo lang na, uy, natanggap ako sa isang dehacker, isang university sa Korea, ay isang napakagandang Dear Diary moment yan, no? For some of you who are graduate students not in Korea, for instance, nasa Pilipinas kayo or somewhere else, or some of beginning academicians, no, or faculty, no, meron din kayo mga Dear Diary moment na finally nakapasa na kayo sa ganong school, finally natanggap akong teacher sa ganong university, no? So that's a very precious diary moment. Okay? However, next button please. Can you please ano yan? Sige, i-click mo lang na dalawa yan. And another one. Yan, okay. However, the reality kicks in, no, wherein, no, every day of your life will be spent in the lab, for instance, alone or with your colleagues, generating so many or so much information, and that finally your professor here now will tell you you have to publish, no, or your thesis advisor will tell you one way or another you have to publish your manuscript, no. How would you do that? No? How will I start? No? This is my first paper, for instance. What would I do? No? Next, please. Okay. So what should you write about in your data? Okay. So maybe click mo na lang, Jubert, until the last bullet. Yan. Okay. So, scientific publication is an important indicator of your productivity. No? So, hindi dahil naka-generate ka na ng data in your one whole year of life in the lab, or your thesis, for instance, or your research grant, for instance, okay na yon. Very productive ka na. No, it's not the case, no? So you really have to disseminate that particular information. And one dissemination platform will be your scientific publication, no? So if you're into science, you must publish your work. You must inform your network or your peers of your findings, okay? Your findings will support your grant. And of course, the next funding application of your professor, for instance, for the next grant, no? So kaya tayo nagpa-publish is may tanong na maiiwan yung last na scientific publication mo, and that has to be answered by the next grant. Okay? So that should be published, okay? So also to enhance your potential, halimbawa kung kayo ay faculty members, then you have to be promoted or else you'll be stuck in there, no? So I have known colleagues to be stuck forever in one rank, no? But for those who have been publishing quite a lot, mabilis silang ma-promote, no? And of course, as graduate student, undergraduate students, researchers, no, and academia people is for our personal development, no. So makikita mo doon na hindi ka lang tagagawa ng data, nako-convert mo siya into something useful, no. So it's an excellent learning experience, really, no. It will promote your critical thinking. Hindi ka lang robot, no, na sinusunod yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enumerated method, no. your brain is now thinking, no? So it enhances your ability to be more concise in writing, no? In writing your communications, no? Magaling ka rin ba magsulat o hanggang lab ka lang ba talaga, no? Thus, the pressure to publish is really very high. Okay, next slide, please. But take note, no, that the core goal of any scientific work is to make discoveries and explain them. Okay? So, kung aalalahanin nyo yung high school life nyo or yung college life nyo, na may i-assign sa inyo na scientific paper or report, no? Ang goal nun is for you to explain what you have observed. Okay? Bakit biglang tumubo yung mga munggo nung nilagay mo siya sa bulak na moist? Bakit nag-produce ng alcohol yung isa pag nilagyan mo ng stopper, yung flask, yung isa hindi, no? So there are so many things that you need to explain, but the goal there is how can you explain that discovery, no, to other people. Slide, please. All right. Isa pang click, Rupert. Isa pa para ma-complete na natin yung ano. Yan. Okay. Adede. Yan. Hanggang dun sa ano, yan. Right. Stop. Okay. Now, how do you decide or how do you choose your journal venue? Ang dami-daming journal, di ba? Journals here and there. May mga journals pang predatory, no? So, how do you discover? How do you decide? Okay? The selection of your journal, sandali lang, excited si Jubert. Yan, okay. Okay, so the selection of your journal, saan mo ba isa-submit yung manuscript mo o yung draft mo, is very important, no? So, yun talaga yung key, no? Key decision factor, which journal, no? So, first you have to consider, yung bang information mo ay better written, binabasa, okay? Or is it better visualized, no? But there are journals at this particular time wherein they show visualized experimentation data, okay? So this particular journals would allow other people na hindi masyadong appreciative sa pagbasa. Sino mga inaantok sa inyo sa pagbasa ng journal, di ba? Taas kamay, mga ganyan, no? And then some information are not really for ano, no, 'di ba? For reading, no? Some of them are meant to be visualized. So, take a look at your data, take a look at your information, sa tingin nyo, saan siya po pwede. If it's a methodological, no, information, try a visualized journal, no? But if it's highly comprehensive new knowledge that you need to baka written ang most So that's the first consideration. Is it written or is it better visualized? Okay, next slide, Jubert, please. Yan, okay. Sige, ulit-ulit hanggang last bullet. Last, yan, okay. All right. The next consideration natin, a manuscript of more specific local interest may be better suited to a more specialized journal. So, ano ba yung na-generate mo na information? No? So, pwede ba siya sa broad audience? Maintindihan ba siya ng broad audience? Ma-appreciate ba siya ng lahat? Or baka specific audience lang yan. So, may example ako dito. So, for instance, Journal of Virology and Microbiology. Sorry, biased ako sa mga examples ko kasi ito yung mga alam kong journal. No? So, example, Journal of Virology and Microbiology would all microbiologists would be interested there, all virologists would be interested submitting there and reading that, no? Oh, in contrast to that, if you have a journal about fudges only, baka konti lang yung makaka-appreciate nun. And they need to study more about fudge before appreciating the articles there, no? In the Philippines, for instance, no? So if you submit, say, in the Philippine Journal of Science or the Philippine Science Letters, it's very broad, no? All topics that will be tagged science, ay pwede, no? But if you submit, for instance, highly specific mga journals, no? Kunyari, Acta Medica Filipina, no? So that's for clinical papers lang. So, hindi ka pwede mag-submit dun bigla na taxonomy of ipil-ipil in whatever province, no? So you have to check. Kasi yung iba nadidishearten sila, hindi tinanggap yung article ko sa ganyan, masyadong mayabang na journal. Yun naman pala, hindi naman fit yung topic mo for that journal. Okay? Next, please. All right. So, meron pa akong additional considerations dito. Tatlo yan. Yan. Perfect. Okay, yan. So, ito naman is when you choose your journal, kasi parang this is choosing your friends, no? So, kapag choose mo ng friends mo, aba, kailangan meticulous ka, di ba? So, in choosing your journal venue, you have to consider also, first, the quality and the reputation. Okay? Pag never heard mo talaga siyang journal, kapag ginugol mo, hindi lumalabas, magtaka ka, di ba? Or, kapag binuksan mo yung journal, binasa mo yung mga article, mali-mali yung mga stat. Ay, nako, medyo magdalawang isip ka, friend, no? Wag doon. Okay? The second one is the impact factor, no? There are also other measures of impact, no? Impact factor, mga citations or site score citations, no? So, ibig lang sabihin nito, ano yung arrive, no? Ano yung dating nung journal na yon sa audience, no? Marami bang nakakabasa? At kung binasa nila, ginabit ba nilang reference doon sa kanilang sinusulat na material, no? So, ibig sabihin nun, useful yung mga napapublish sa journal venue na yon. So, maganda yon, no? So meron mga apps or analytical apps, no, na nagpapakita na ng mga listahan na sino yung mga well-cited na articles. You could just go to the topic or ng discipline mo, kung engineering yan, mathematics, material science, Vero, etc. So, lahat yan nakalista sila dyan. No? Next please. Okay. And ito nga yung sinasabi ko na a key criterion in publication decisions is the manuscript is fit for that particular journal and the readership of that journal. No? Siyempre may mga pangarap tayo na halimbawa, gusto kong makapag-publish sa ganitong journal. Pangarap mo yan ever since. Kumbaga, kaya ako pinapagbutihan ko ang trabaho. Gusto kong makapag-publish sa Nature. Kagaya ni Jeffrey Mancera, ganyan. No? O kaya sa Science, no? Cell, no? Na winawagayway ni Fauci. No? Siyempre, dream ko yun. No? But of course, you have to check muna your material. Swak ba siya dun? Kasi baka naman hindi. Parang ikaw, pinipilit mo lang sa crush mo, hindi naman pala talaga. No? So, parang ganun lang yun. Alright? Next slide, please. Ayan. Okay. So, I have here an example. No? Bias ako sa Frontiers kasi siya yung number 1. Number 1 sa citation. No? At saka siya yung laging nasa ads ko sa Twitter. Ewan ko ba? Ba't kinukulit ako neto di Frontiers in Microbiology? No? Example, when you click a website of your chosen journal, it will give you so much information for you to decide whether that journal is your appropriate venue. No? So parang ganito, no? Ano nga ba yung dating app? Diba? So makikita mo dun yung mga information ng mga pwede mong i-date. Yan, mga ganyan-ganyan, no? And then also, kapag may iba blind date sa'yo, ang dami mong mga checklist, kailangan kong itanong to, itanong yan, before you choose, right? So, ganoon din sa journal, no? You have to be meticulous about it. So, when you click that website, it will show you the scope. For instance, sabi ng Frontiers in Microbiology, they are peer-reviewed, okay? And then they will have the entire spectrum of microbiology welcome, no, sa pag-submit. Okay? Nilista nila specifically yan, antimicrobials, aquatic micro, etc., etc. So if my material will fall into that comprehensive list, I would like to submit into that. They will also tell you what article types they would accept, no? Is it an editorial, no? Is it kasi maraming type na you also have to consider that. Maraming type, hindi lang laging original article, no? So meron tayong tinatawag na notes, editorial notes or research communication or review or method, no? So may mga ganun silang submissions. And you have to check the website out. No? So makikita nyo naman yun. Especially the guide to authors. Yun ang talagang ating help button. No? Is the guide to authors. No? Next slide, please. All right. So here is an example ng mga parts of an article. No? So of course, you are very familiar now. I hope everyone is familiar now. What are the parts of the article? No? So mga nakita ko kanina sa participants na undergrad, no? Yan ang magagawa pa lang ng kanilang mga proposals this time. Makikita nyo rin to later on pag nagawa kayo ng inyong thesis. Okay. So pag nagawa kayo ng thesis nyo, lilitaw yan. No? So of course, your article should have your title. Okay. Your title, and then the abstract, and then the introduction, and then the materials and methods. Explain ko yan later. No? And then the results. Next slide, please. And then the discussion. Now, some journals would opt for you to combine the results and the discussion. So, take note, no? Tingnan nyo muna sa pagsasabitan nyo kasi baka mamaya mega sulat kayo ng combine tapos paghihiwalayin, it happens to me all the time. Or vice versa, no? Hiniwalay ko tapos pagkukombinein din pala, no? So, mamaya pwede natin pagkwentuhan yan, yung mga happy at sweet stories ng aking journey, no, sa pagsusulat ng mga journals. And of course, you have to write your references. No? You have to write your references there. And then some journals would have extra. No? May mga extra silang mga subheadings. Halimbawa, if you have sequences, they would ask you to or require you to say or indicate at least that you have submitted that to a database, for instance, NCBI, etc. No? And then sometimes some journal will ask you what are the contributions of the authors. Some journals would not. No? Sometimes they would ask for funding kasi minsan then nakikita dyan yung mga conflicts of interest. No? Yung iba naman, sasabihin lang sa'yo na you just declare whether you have a conflict of interest or not. No? Some journals would also require acknowledgements, particularly your funding institution or some collaboration, some partnerships, etc. And some supplementary materials. No? I would contrast this to a review article. Next slide, please. In a review article, no, so kukonti na lang yung laman niya, no? So, of course, you still have your title and of course the authors. I forgot to mention the authors and their affiliation should be there, no? And then the abstract, no? For a review article, pagkatapos ng introduction, walang method, no? Because you're presenting so many articles here and then you are going to comprehensively report, no? Ano yung meron sa body of knowledge. So sa introduction mo, you divide now into various headings yung iyong topic. No? So naka-divide siya sa headings, etc., etc. You can still add tables. You can still add figures. No? This is just to make your explanation way better. No? Kaya minsan gusto ko yung mga review kasi imagine they are trying to give an information about a topic using, say, 30 articles, tapos gagawa siya ng napakagandang scheme or diagram o kaya signaling pathway. I appreciate that kasi mas naiintindihan mo. So rather than, reading the 30 papers, I would read that article. And then pag may question ako, balikan mo na lang yung mga original papers. No? Next slide, please. Your review article would also contain a conclusion. Okay, sa original article kasi minsan yung conclusion, nakadikit na siya sa discussion. So the last few sentences of your discussion. For a review article, you have to have it separate. No? And then of course, you still have your references and depending again on the journal, the extras or extra information that they would like to ask from you. No? Next slide. Okay. So I'll be running down. No? So this is just, very mabilisan. I don't really need to just to give you an information. Anyway, if you're very interested with this, I think PIKO will be sharing my slide to the participants, no? So, of course, the title page, no? So the title page states the title of your manuscript. It has to be catchy, no? It has to contain the information that you wish to convey all throughout the paper or the manuscript, no? And it has to be short and simple. Okay? Ngayon, kung ang journal na pagsasubmitan mo naman ay highly, yung discipline mo ay napakaliit, no? So, very narrow. At kayo lang magkakaintindihan. Kunwari, data science, minsan, kayo lang talaga yung nakakaintindi ng jargon sa title. But that's okay. Pero kung broad ang audience ng journal, you really have to state your title clearly. Okay? Okay, of course, list the authors and the author affiliations. Minsan may nilalagay yung mga supervisors natin na itong student na to ay lumipat na siya ng trabaho. Kunwari, nakagraduate na siya, tapos affiliated na siya sa ibang address, may mga nilalagay lang tayo mga superscript to describe that. Minsan din, may nilalagay siya na, kasi itong dalawang author na to, kunwari sa UP Manila, I always do that, no? They work in pairs, no, in their thesis. So, ibig sabihin, the contributions are equal, no? They also both wrote the paper. So, pwede ako maglagay ng dalawang asterisk, and then I will say sa baba, contributed equally, no, in the conduct of the study and the preparation of the manuscript. Yun, pwede nyo ilagay yun doon, no? And then you have to provide for keywords, for running, yung ibang journal nanghihingi sila ng running head or title, running title. No? So you have to provide if you ano. Okay? Minsan, magandang yung inyong mga keywords ay madaling mag-google. No? Kasi yan yung lumalabas or useful yan sa search engine. No? So kung like halimbawa, ang unsearchable yung word mo na ikaw lang ang nakakaintindi at ikaw lang yung gumamit, baka hindi ma-search yung article. Okay? Of course, we have to provide the contact information for the corresponding author because they will be writing that author pag nag-submit and then pag may review at pag na-accept or the other way around kapag na-reject. No? So, siya yung unang mag-absorb ng shock, yung corresponding author. Okay? So, the abstract naman, this is very simple, no? In a paragraph form. Normally, naka-block siya. Some journals would, instead of a single paragraph, they would be dividing the abstract into, say, the background, and then the method, and then the result, and then the conclusion, something like that. So you just follow what the journal would require you to do so. So, of course, clearly state the objective of your experiment of hypothesis to be evaluated. No? Remember that you only have a few limit of words. So you have to choose them properly. No? So you have to describe your method, pero ano yung gist, no? Hindi mo kailangan i-detalye yan, later pa yan. You have to describe your result. And then, ang most important is end with the impact of this work on the general field of the study. For instance, kung micro yan, viro, biochem, etc. Why? Because sometimes, hindi pala sometimes, most of the time, the abstract is the only thing or part of the article that people can access. No? So normally, the other parts will be behind paywalls. Okay? So if your abstract doesn't contain highly significant information in just 250 to 300 words, kawawa naman yung mga other scientists from the other parts of the globe. No? So, halimbawa kung sa Pilipinas, kung hindi naka-subscribe yung kanilang office, for instance, doon sa journal na yon, they're behind the paywall. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. For the introduction, so this is just a backgrounder. No? So, a short review of literature pertaining to your research topic. So, dito nagsastart ka na mag-cite, pero hindi naman ganun kalawak na kagaya ng review of literature mo sa iyong thesis. No? So, reimagine your review of literature, okay? And then, check, alin doon ang pwede kong gawing introduction or pwedeng makatulong as an introduction. No? So it's best constructed no, as a descriptive funnel. You start with the broad, okay, and then slowly focusing on the work. Yung ano yung gagawin mo. And then the last will be a summary sentence that you can add to state how no, the answer of your question will contribute to the overall field of study. No? So maigsi lang yan, mga 3 to 4 paragraphs lang yan. Yung ika-4 yan so this study is, or this study will conduct the, yan, mga ganon. No? That's the last part. And then of course for the methods, this is very crucial. No? Merong mga chismis talaga. Merong mga chismis na not all scientists are very honest or very vocal doon sa mga sinusulat nilang methodologies, no? Kasi alam nyo, yung mga nababasa yung methodologies, ayan ay resulta ng ilang trials, ilang replications, ilang repetitions, etc. And then there are some parts of the methodologies that are secret to the lab, no? Kaya minsan ang na-experience ako noon, sinunod ko matiwasay yung methodology dun sa journal. But nakakailang beses na ako nag-try. Why? No? So I went back to the textbook at sabi dun sa textbook, ito yun So nagawa ko ng, trial and error stuff based from the textbook, and then we try writing the author. Sabi ko, hindi gumagana yung ano mo, and then ito yung ginawa ko, nag-work. So sinabi naman niya, in all honesty, na we omitted some parts because it's a laboratory optimization secret. Mga ganyan. No? May pa-secret si ate. No? If you are practicing integrity, it should not be it should not be your practice. Okay, you should be honest and you should be transparent of your methodology. No? So kung yun ay isang highly trade secret, you can apply for patent of a certain algorithm or a certain part of your methodology so that it will be protected behind your name. Okay. So you can begin your by the way, each method should be described in a separate section. No? So normally nag-uumpisa ka dyan dun sa materials. No? Meron ka bang gagamiting cultures? Meron ka bang gagamiting special beams? Meron ka bang So saan nabibili yan? Kayo sa laboratory nyo ba yan na-generate? Or binili nyo din lang sa mga companies, etc. No? And then you can begin the statement of the materials used in the study. Okay? Don't forget to indicate yung company. No? It's not advertising really the company, but for instance, if it is the first time for the scientist or researcher to conduct that study, uunahin niyang gamitin yung na-try mo na brand. Okay? And then later on, kapag depende sa budget niya or availability, saka siya ngayon magti-tweak or saka siya ngayon magti-troubleshoot. So indicate the vendor, indicate the vendor. At saka meron din kasi doon na hanap na kami sa Pilipinas, sa Singapore lang pala nakakabili. Kasi hindi niya in-indicate na sa Singapore lang binili or nabibili. So you have to also check that out. If you purchase that from Singapore, ilagay niyo PIKO Singapore, something like that. And then be concise. Okay, be concise. You may present a theoretical or modeling component if necessary, or yung sinatabi nila na parang framework, flowchart, some journals appreciate that na meron kayong mga concept maps or flowcharts of So i-check nyo yun sa journal. Hihingi ba sila ng ganun, And then describe, of course, the statistical analysis of your methods. How will your data be analyzed? Okay. And then how will it be interpreted? So that's very important. Next, please. Okay. So the results, actually the results, if separate as a discussion, it will just be a rundown of describing what the table looks like, what the figure looks like, what the information from the figure are, as well as the information from the table are. Hindi nyo pa kailangan siyang i-interpret. So you just tell them, okay, ganito yung nangyari nung nilagay ko to, ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. It's supported by this figure. Ganun lang, no? And then you would just say, if there's a mean, sabihin mo yung mean, meron ba siyang standard deviation, standard error of the mean, no? Median, mode, p-values, so lalagay nyo na dun yun. Be succinct, o talagang very, very, tawag dito, straight to the point yung iyong results. That is kung separate, ha? Kung together naman sila, no? So after mo isulat yung result first part, i-discuss mo na siya. Okay? So results, discussion, results, discussion, result, discussion. Parang alternate sila. Okay? Kung separate naman, the discussion will be the most difficult to write. No? So that's the spoiler alert for the first timers na susulat na ng kanilang mga journal article. No? It's really very difficult. Bakit difficult? Kasi dami mong gustong i-explain eh. Pero yun ba yung tamang explanation? Okay. You have to give an overview of your work. You have to summarize the important findings. Okay? Kung may current hypothesis, accept mo yun or i-reject mo yun, and then you will justify why did you reject? Why did you accept? No? So, we also would like to have or present here yung mga significant findings in your results section. Now, you would always refer to your results. So, kunyari, it was shown in figure A that blah, blah, blah. So, ano ibig sabihin nun nung nakita mo sa figure A? Some papers would indicate potential weaknesses, no, of their paper. It's okay, no? It's okay for you to present that so that the next researchers who will be reading your article, it will be very helpful for them. So, can they strengthen that particular part by troubleshooting, adding other steps, etc. No? And then also, we can consider, no, we can consider how this work contributes to the overall study. No? So yung ang importante dito is na-explain mo yung mga interpretation at na-connect mo siya. So importante ba ito sa aking field of study? Meron bang napala yung aking field of study doon sa aking article? No? Next slide, please. Okay. And of course, a conclusion, it would, of course, you first introduce the work again, no? This study was conducted with the aim of blah, 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 blah. And this was our major results. And just 1-2-liner of your discussion, and then end with a statement on how this work will contribute to the overall study. At kung napansin nyo, palagi kong inuulit yun, ano, how your work, no, contributes to the overall field of study, because that's the main goal of writing an article, telling the people what is the contribution of your data, now a written material, to your overall field of study. No? And of course, you have to put your acknowledgement. It's a brief statement saying thank you to the efforts of some participants or consultants that are not authors. No? State also yung mga funding sources if hindi nyo pa nalagay. Ensure also that it would adhere to the guidelines provided by the funding institution. Ito yung mga related sa conflict of interest. No? Halimbawa, kung clinical trial yan, tapos may co-author ka na pharmaceutical company, tapos pinalasalamatan mo pa talaga ng bongga yung pharmaceutical company, pag-iisipan ka na ng masama na reviewer mo. No? So, paghandaan mo nang sagutin siya. Okay. And of course, the references. Ito yung madugo. Ito yung madugo kung wala kang software. Okay? Iisa-isayin mo talaga siya. At ang pinaka-hate ko dyan, yung mga comma, yung mga period, alin ang i-caps, alin ang i-italize, etc. Una ba ang pangalan, una ang surname, iba-iba, no? So, tip, before you write your references, check if a software package is available in your lab. Okay? Kung wala naman, kung magmamano-mano naman kayo, i-check nyo na kaagad yung journal. Anong sabi? Anong format? so that you will not be having a hard time na finishing. Minsan nakatapos ako ng references na 2 days. I was using mano-mano style in writing my references, and it took me 2 days to finish everything. Pagsusulat ng references pa lang yun. No? So again, if you have software packages, it will make your literature citing very, very easy. No? You have your Mendeley, you have your, what's the note? Ano nga yung sa Microsoft? EndNote. Yes, EndNote for Microsoft yun, no? Salamat, Jubert. Ayan, sige. So next slide, please. And of course, for the table caption, figure caption. So, kung nangangarap mag-submit sa pagkagaling-galing at pagkaganda-gandang journal, tignan nyo kung anong itsura ng mga tables doon at anong itsura ng mga figures. And then try to have your figures and your tables parallel. Okay? Kasi kung kahit sa tingin mo ang ganda ng magkakagawa ng ay nagawa ako ng relationship at ginawa ko siyang 4 na bilang ABCD. Yun pala, ang gusto ng journal na yun, naka-Venn diagram ka na te. Okay? So, hahaba at hahaba pa yung mo, yung pag-i-explain mo, di ba? So, mas maganda, punta ka na agad kay journal, ano ba yung, ganito pala yung gusto niya sa figure, ha? Mahilig pala siya sa flowchart. Ano ba yung data ko na pwedeng gawing flowchart? No? Yan, okay? And then, decide if you need to color your figure, no? Kasi minsan kailangan maganda talaga, may kulay, no? Check nyo rin lang sa journal if they would pay extra for color, no? Kasi yung iba talagang kapag printed, kapag may kulay, may bayad, no? Pero kung online naman, kasi hoda anong kulay ang maisip mo, kung yan ay lahat ng ranges ng blue at lahat ng ranges ng pink, meron sila online, walang problema. Make sure that if you prepare your figure, it should be in high definition photo file, JPEG, PNG, TIFF, yung mga ganyan. No? You may need to create separate files for your figures kasi baka hingi nila yan. Minsan kasi pag in-embed nyo na siya sa Microsoft Word, pumapangit na yung kanyang resolution. So, it is very, very important and handy for you to have a separate file for the figure. No? Isang file figure 1, isang file figure 2, etc. Okay? So, refer accurately in the manuscript how they present these tables and figures. Okay? Next slide, please. Ayan. So, any questions so far? If you have, please go to the chat box. No? Maraming alagad si Jubert dyan na nagko-collate ng inyong mga questions and we will have to chika about that later. Okay?
Yeah, please pakilagay lang sa chat box and we will address it one by one later.
Yes. Okay, ipunin nyo lang yan. Okay, next. All right. So, best practices na tayo. No? So, alam na nyo na yung mga pointers, no? Where to submit, and then the parts of my article. Okay? Best practices naman tayo. So, minsan may mga isisingit ako dito, mga hugot, ha? Yung mga nangyari sa akin, sa aking mga journey, simula nung aking paper number 1 hanggang sa recent paper, no? Take note, everyone, no? There is no single best method for writing a scientific manuscript, no? Walang parang sinasabi nila na silver bullet for COVID-19. Walang ganon. No? So, ang maganda dito is you develop your own and tag it as your best, no? So, it's really it's really your practice that will make it perfect, no? So, ako doon, nangopya din lang ako ng style nung unang-una kong paper, no? I think I was just 24 or 23 years old pa lang noon. Malay ko bang magsulat ng ganyan, no? Alam ko mag-experiment. Kaya ko mag-experiment kahit buong araw, buong magdamag, no? But when the professor told me, you have to write it. Huh? Talaga yung sabi ko, write it? Yung mga ganun, no? Parang, oh my God, di ba? Parang, it was really, parang malamig na tubig na binusa sa'yo. how will I do it? No? So, yung aking co-mentor, no, she was very, very happy to teach me her style. No? So nagsimula ako sa style niya, and then every time na nasusulat ako ng mga next papers, nagbabago yung style ko until eventually I have perfected my style, which I'll present to you later on. Pwede nyong simulan yon, and then later, if it doesn't work for you, you can tweak, no? You can troubleshoot. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so this is my tried and tested journey ng pagsulat mo, no? Na-practice ko na to through time. It works for me. For me, ha? I don't know if it will work for you, but perhaps you can try and then troubleshoot later. I always start with my tables and figures. I always start with that. Why? Because that's the backbone of my story. Diyan ka huhugot ng kwento, right? Kung halimbawa, yung tables, ang figures mo doesn't even, knit together. It's not cohesive. It doesn't make sense. You have to redo and redo and redo. Hindi ka na makakapag-start. Wala kang bubuing kwento. So, you have to really make time, no? Lahat ng effort mo, gawin mo dyan sa tables and figure. So, once andyan na, naka-roll out na yung tables and figures mo, you can now start writing your results. Saan manggagaling yan? Doon sa ginawa mong tables and figures, no? So, kung hindi ka pa kampante na isulat agad siya na paragraph, hindi kagaya ng mga comm majors, ang gagaling. Paragraph agad, 3 minutes mo lang sinabihan, no? Samantala yung mga biology majors, 3 araw na wala pa ring paragraph, no? So, okay lang yan, no? That's okay, that's fine. Ako, ang practice ko, I always start with bullets. Okay, I always start with bullets. Example, if I have, say, a table, anong masasabi ko doon? Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, bullet 4. Okay? And then if I have a figure, bullet, bullet, bullet. And then later on, you can transform that into paragraphs. Okay? Kung nahihirapan ka mag-English, most of us are having difficult times talaga mag-English, no? Isulat mo muna siya sa Taglish. Ginagawa ko rin yan. No? Tina-Taglish ko muna siya. Kahit mukha siyang nakakatawa kapag binabasa ko yung manuscript drafts ko, I always start with that. Why? Ayokong guluhin yung strain of thought. Diba? Hayaan mo siyang mag-isip at mag-feed yun ng information. Okay? So once na-draft mo na yung gusto mong kwento, saka mo na ngayon galingan yung grammar. Saka, minsan nagpapatulog pa talaga ako sa mga friends. Tignan mo nga yung itsura ng sentence ko para kasi may off pero hindi ko ma-pinpoint. Kasi minsan, pag paulit-ulit mo nang nakikita, akala mo wala nang mali. No? Pero talagang may mapapinpoint pa yung others. So meron ka ng resulta, it is now backed up by your tables and figures, you can now go to the methodology. Bakit method ang sunod? Ate, napagod ka pagsulat. So you have to gain your momentum, right? Methodology is very easy. Why? You just have to transform your enumerated methods from your logbook into a paragraph. Right? Tama? So, kumbaga, walang ka-effort yan. Hindi ka mapapagod. So that it will prepare you to the next war, which is your discussion. Okay? So, sa discussion, ang nag-work naman sa akin ay the help of my Excel sheet. Yan. Sino sa inyo ang nag-Excel sheet din paggagawa ng references, no? Kaway dyan. Yan. Alam niyo, this works for me very, very well. Kasi, minsan, no, 'di ba? Minsan, ang dami-dami mong nakuhang papel. Bibong-bibo ka sa pagkuha ng journals. Naka 65 akong articles, no? Only to cite or be cited sa iisa pa lang thought ng aking papel, no? So it's ang dami kong sinayang, no? But if nung na-learn kong i-organize yung mga literatures ko sa Excel, no? So tinitable ko siya, citation, okay? Anong topic? And then ano yung sabi niya na connected sa aking resulta. All right? And then I handpick them and then create a wonderful paragraph, bonggang-bonggang MMK paragraph to support a part of the table or a part of the figure. Okay? So it helps, no? And then later on, ika-copy-paste mo din lang yun kung mano-mano ka, yung citation na nilagay mo doon. Okay? So, discussion will take you quite a while. Walang nakakagawa ng discussion ng isang araw lang. Galing mo, te, share naman dyan. No? So, wala masyadong ganun. Kaya, if you feel that you are slowing down or if you feel that parang walang nangyayari sa'yo, don't be disheartened, no? Isipin mo lang na marami tayo na ganyan. Kahit ako, natatagalan din ako sa discussion point. Okay? And then after discussion, you can now write your intro. Kasi yung draft mo nito ay parang shortened na kukunin sa discussion point. Okay? So, ang intro kasi is just a little background. Tandaan niyo yung sabi ko kanina, 3 to 4 paragraphs lang yan. So, makakabuo kayo ng kwento based from your Excel sheet also, from your discussion, okay, na madali na. Okay? And then, of course, the last will be your title page, no, your abstracts, yung mga ganyan. Okay? And then, references, yung mga finishing touches ang tawag ko dyan, no? Kaya siya yung last kasi mechanical na yan, no? So, and usually, abstract lang yung pinakamahirap dyan because the challenge of the number of words. Otherwise, it's relatively easy. So that's your journey. You start with your tables and figures, and then the rest will follow. Kung sa tingin mo after ng tables and figures, pagod ka na agad, isunod mo na yung methodology. No? So methodology is really a buffer. No? It's relatively a buffer. Okay? Yung iba start sila sa title page, but you know your title can change through your manuscript edits, no? Na minsan nakakawalong title na ako and eventually submit the manuscript using the 9th title. So, sa last nyo talaga siya kakaririn. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. So, some tips na to. First is find time to think. Alam niyo, ang dami-daming distractions going on around us, no? And it's really very difficult to think about something to write, no? Ano nga ba susulatin ko? Paano ko ba ito susulatin, no? So give yourself some time, no? Provide for an ideal time for thinking, no? Sa akin, kapag nagta-traffic ako, dahil galing pa ako sa dulo ng walang hanggan bago ako makarating sa UP Manila, that precious moment, no, mga eureka moment ko yan eh. Oo nga, no. So I always have my handy-dandy notebook with me. Or kung medyo techie kayo, the notes dun sa iPhone, no. Dun yung isusulat, no, yung iyong mga, or i-email mo sa sarili mo, use your iPhone. Hoy, naisip mo ngayon, ito, ganyan, no. So take or identify, no, those particular moment na pwede ka mag-isip. Okay? Kailangan kasi dyan, full ang attention mo sa pag-iisip. No? Ano ba yung mga iisipin mo? No? What do you want to say about your topic? What is your key message? No? Excuse me. Who is the intended audience? Okay? So if you identify that audience, how will you format? No? Saang journal? Okay? Sino kaya may interest dito? No? Who might want to work on this paper with me? Okay? So, all the questions listed here, yung mga sagot na yan, dapat meron kayong paglalagyan kung saan ang sagot. No? So, you have your notebook or your virtual notes from your iPhone. No? So, that's very, very helpful. Ideal time for thinking, please identify that firsthand. Okay? Next, please. Next is find time to write. No? So, naisip mo na. The next will be find time to write, no? You don't really need to like sit down from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. hanggang 8 a.m. ulit just to finish your some part of your journal article. No. You know what works for me? 2 hours a day. No? I devote 2 hours a day for my paper. Kunwari, ngayon ang susulatin ko ay table 1. Mga ganon. And then I have to finish that in 2 hours. Tomorrow is table 2. So if I don't finish that today, I will be going to do 2 tasks tomorrow. no? So halimbawa, pwede rin naman na today, ang gagawin ko lang ay magbabrowse ako sa internet at mag-iipon ako ng journal. Then next day, ilalagay ko sila sa Excel. Then halimbawa napagod ka, next day, kukulayan ko yung mga magkakapareho ng topic sa Excel. No? So pwede nyo gawin yon. Basta ang mahalaga, every day, meron kang moment with your manuscript. Okay? So, halimbawa, kayo na yung makaka-identify nyon. Is it a short 5 minutes or kagayang ko na 2 hours? But you really need real time, no, to set aside to write. Marami sa atin busy. Dami-dami natin ginagawa. Minsan sinasabi natin kulang talaga yung 24 hours. But if we can set aside an hour for coffee with friends, I can also set aside 2 hours with my coffee and my article, right? So, kayo rin ganun. Kayo na yung bahalang mag-set ng time na yun, no? So, schedule your time for writing, no? You can make appointments. Kung masyado kayong OC, may planner kayo, you can do that. Or, decide what is the best strategy for you to find time and allocate time, that schedule for your writing. Another tip, next slide, for finding time to write is find the suitable time of the day that you will write, no? Ako kasi gabi. I'm not a morning person, no? So, pag pinagawa mo ako, sabihin mong every 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock morning ka magsusulat, wala akong magagawa every day, no? So, choose your time, best time for you, no? Is it morning? Is it night? Is it afternoon? Is it before bedtime? After waking up? Do you need a warm-up period? Ako, ang warm-up period ko is sometimes I clean my room and I will put on my lipstick. No? So after that, kaya ko nang mag-concentrate sa aking paper. No? So you can identify that. No? So it will, parang pinoprogram yung sarili mo na kapag naglinis ako may room kasi ako na study eh. Pag nilinis ko yon, nakaprogram sa utak ko na may gagawin ako today. At pag nag-lipstick ako, nakaprogram na sa brain ko na ngayon na yon, ngayong time na yon. Okay? And then also you need the type of environment, no? Hindi to universal. This will change. I remember when I was in Korea, doon ako nakakasulat ng madami kapag nandun ako sa park ng yung may bear, yung logo, animal logo ng aming meron kasi dong para mga gazebos surrounding the bear park, no? And it was really very cozy. And kapag nandun ako, nakakasagap naman ako ng Wi-Fi, I could do the search, no, the search on literatures and then generate some statement, no, connecting the literatures. It was really very good. Kapag nasa kwarto ko, kumakain lang ako eh. Tsaka chichismisan lang kami ng mga labmate ko. So, it doesn't make sense, no? So ikaw, pili ka, no? Saan? No? Is it your room? It depends, no? Choose your music, no? So, sino ba ang makakapagpasulat sa'yo? BTS ba? Sino to? Si Ate Taylor ba? Sino? No? Sino makakapagpa-engganyo sa iyong mag-start, no? So, is it a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, milk tea, juice, water, beer, soju? Minsan kasi, naalala ko yung professor namin, no? If you are going to write, sabi niya, drink 1 bottle of beer. It will stimulate your brain. Ayun, tulog ako. So definitely, in-scrap out ko na yung beer as one of the stimulants in writing paper for me. Sa akin talaga, it will always be a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, no, na black. Yan. Next slide, please. Ayan. So again, if you have questions, type lang dyan sa chat box at mamaya ay pagchikahan natin yan. Okay? Next slide, please. All right. Now, here are the roadblocks. I'm sure marami sa inyo ang makaka-experience nito or nakaka-experience nito. No? No time. Ay, wala akong time, te. Hindi ko talaga kayang pag-upuan yan. O sige, di amagin ka dyan. Diba? So, as I've told you earlier, you have no choice but to write. It is your responsibility to share or disseminate your information. So you have to find time. So go ahead, schedule your writing appointment. Okay? Pwedeng ikaw lang, pwedeng you have a writing team, or pwedeng you have a writing buddy. Okay? Buddy yan, nagsisimula talaga yung mga buddy-buddy na ganyan. Yung pag-publish nyo ng paper, kayo na. Yan, mga ganyan. Yan, nag-i-insert na ako ng mga hugot-hugot dyan. Okay? So kung mapapansin nyo, may mga articles ako na co-author ko yung asawa ko, di ba? Okay. So actually, no pressure. No pressure. No? So, you have to book your meetings with your writing buddy and your personal editor. Okay? Set yourself deadlines. Okay? Let me clarify that. There are two types of people. There are people who are overwhelmed with deadlines. Okay? And there are people na nag-enjoy sila na may pa-deadline si Mayor sa kanila. Okay? So, identify. Do you need pressure? If you need pressure, maglagay ka ng deadline. Ang mga taga-UP ganyan, we work on deadlines, no? And we work by the deadline, no? So, like halimbawa, kailan to kailangan? So, isusulat mo yung date. Right? So, kung sino yung naka-queue lahat yan sila, kung sino yung mga unang deadline, yun yung mga una mong gagawin, and so on. So, you can do that. If you are a type of person na kagaya ng ganyan, na kailangan mo ng pressure talaga, overwhelming pressure, then maglagay ka ng deadline. At ang ginagawa ko, pag may deadline ako, nilalagay ko doon ay discuss intro with blah blah person. Kumbaga, nabook na rin yan na may usapan kayo. So, mahihiya ka na, ay, sorry, hindi ko natapos. Diyos ko naman, kinalendar ka ng tao, di ba? So, you have to do that. For those people na that, wala effect sa kanila kung may deadline sila o wala, then it's okay. No? So, it's up to you again to schedule your writing activity. Okay? Next roadblock, please. Yeah. Sabi ng iba, it's too hard, no? Or it's too scary. Parang hindi ko kaya. How will I transform my 60 pages manuscript or thesis manuscript into a 3-5 pages journal article? Oh, it seems to be scary, right? It seems to be overwhelming. No? Also, kapag nagsa-search ka ng literatures, ang ganda-ganda naman ng mga journal nila. Ang ganda naman ng statistical analysis nila, no? But sometimes if you're having difficult time, you can search help or seek help from other people. Kung nahihirapan ka maghanap ng literatures, you can ask help from your librarians, no? If nahihirapan ka sa pag-interpret ng stat mo, you can ask statisticians, no? If nahihirapan ka sa grammar, seek help ka sa mga linguist, no? So kung may gusto, ano tawag doon? Kung gusto, may paraan, tama ba? So yan, kung gusto mo talaga, maraming paraan, ano? Or some people would say, I need encouragement eh. Gusto ko kasi ini-encourage ako, halimbawa, natapos ko na yung table 1. Wow, way to go! Ang galing mo talaga magawa ng tables. And then saka ka na fire up, no? May mga tao na ganon. So if you feel that you need something like that, you assign a person, no, to track you. Halimbawa, Jubert, sa Friday, sabihin mo sa akin, ma'am, natapos mo na ba yung table? Patingin. Okay? At syempre, papakita mo, ito. Oy, ang galing. O, gawin mo na yung next. Yan. So, kung kailangan mo ng mga ganong encouragement, you have to assign someone, no, to do that for you. No? And also, you can talk to your colleagues whether you need some advice how to, improve your material, etc. Okay? So I'm sure they would encourage you. Minsan nga lang may mga bully talaga, no? Pero don't choose them. Choose those who will be helping you improve, no? And of course, criticize you pero constructive. Okay? Next slide, please. Ayan. Do you need self-discipline? Ha, Jubert? Okay. Ako kasi yan. Ako rin, ganyan. So kung mapapansin nyo, yung mga sinasabi ko sa inyong roadblock, mga naano ko na yan, na-experience ko yan, no? I really need self-discipline. I tend to procrastinate. Ang dami kong mga moments na ganun talaga, no? So sometimes, I give a reward kapag nagawa ko yung task. on time. Halimbawa, meron akong kalendaryo at nagawa ko yun, I will give a reward. It can be a melona or it can be a cup of coffee from medyo sosyale na coffee bean, no? Yung mga hindi mo everyday nakukuha, yung mga gusto mong reward. Halimbawa, if I wish to eat steak, kunwari, gusto ko mag-eat ng steak, so sinasabi ko, sige, kakain ako ng steak pag natapos ko tong first paragraph ko ng discussion. And then I would do that. So that my brain will be programmed na, sige na, gawin mo na, may premyo ka mamaya. Okay? Pero ikaw lang yon, pressure mo yun sa sarili mo. Kung halimbawa masyado ka namang disiplinado, I envy you, no? Kung masyado ka namang disiplinado, then that would be no problem for you. Okay? So the next one is the task too big for you? Lalo na siguro kung first time mo, nasusulat, no? Or ang dami-dami mong trabaho, no? Dami-daming utos sa'yo. Or kung undergrad ka, no? Kakagraduate ko lang, maghahanap pa ako ng trabaho, susulatin ko pa ba yan? Ang dami-daming gagawin, mga ganyan, no? Always start small, no? Hindi mo naman, sabi ko nga kanina, hindi mo kailangan matapos yung article mo in a few days. Yung mga experts nga hindi natatapos yung mga paper in a few days, eh. Ikaw pa, no? Be kind to yourself naman, no? Love yourself, no? So be realistic, no? So ano lang ba, no? Ano lang ba yung pwede nating matapos in this particular time? Okay? Next, please. What if I cannot write? Nako, ayan, ang dami-dami nagsasabi sa akin, hindi naman talaga ako kagaling ang sumulat, no? Kagaya ng tips ko sa inyo kanina, kung ano yung comfortable mong language, yun muna ang gamitin mo. I remember when I was in Korea, no? The tasks of Filipino Scholars in Korea, marami makaka-relate dyan, maninibog ho, mamaya na yung rant. Tayo yung taga-sulat, taga-edit, no? Mas madugo yung edit, eh. Taga-edit, no, ng manuscripts, no, ng mga Koreans, okay? And sometimes, no, magaling sila sa experiments, eh, no? Magaling sila. They can express their ideas, no? But when they write it, kasi hindi naman sila kagalingan sa English kagaya natin, they are really having a hard time, very hard time. So there was once a discussion between two students sa lab. Sabi ko, anong ibig mong sabihin dito sa sinulat mo? So I call it Yoda English because if you translate directly or literally yung Hangul, magiging siyang parang Yoda English, yung baliktad, no? Sabi niya, ganito, ganyan, yan. Okay. So tinry kong i-tweak or i-troubleshoot yung sentence niya, no? Do you say this one? Yes, that's one. Okay, so ganito. So, ang ginawa ko sa kanya is, sa lip na paragraph ang gagawin niya, then numero, number 1. Okay? And then write it in Korean muna. And then isusulat namin siya isa-isang English until we, sabihin nyo, ma'am, ang tagal naman nun. Oh, it doesn't matter as long as he can practice that. He can improve later. Diba? So, kung kayo ganun din, nahihirapan din kayo, you can try that one. No? Tagalogin nyo muna, Bisaya, Hiligaynon, Ilocano, bahala kayo kung anong gusto nyo, saan kayo comfortable. And then later on, transform it, no, into that level of language that the publishers would like. Okay? You have no topic? Walang idea for a paper? O, dami-daming nakakalat dyan. Okay, ang dami-dami. You can present your data to your mentor or to your supervisor or to your buddy, no? And then you discuss, ano bang mapapala natin dito sa data na to, no? And then after that, no, you have a long list of this and then finally you can come up with a good idea. And then after you come up with that idea, check the literature. May nakasulat na ba nun? Diba? So that's very, very important. Okay? So start with an idea that you are most passionate about. Okay? So during that time, yung aking first paper, it was fungal taxonomy at saka diversity. No? So I'm always very happy writing diversity papers. No? I was so very happy identifying those fungal species. Pero ayoko magsulat kasi hindi ako marunong. No? So, ganun nila ako ginaid. De numero, number 1. Ano gusto mong sabihin dito? Okay, susulatin ko. Until we eventually knit together and have sewn together, no? Yung mga pieces of information. Okay? Next, please. All right. So, once the roadblocks are okay, yan, ano mo na siya, finally, you wrote something, the next big hurdle will be the peer review. Okay? Pero para saan ba yung peer review? I always see peer review as a retooling. No? So, it's actually, it's a self-correction. It's humbling, no, in a sense, kasi yung mga hindi ko nakikita na errors, nakikita niya. No? Particularly the periods and the typos. No? At saka yung mga how to explain or how to state yung thought na yon, magaling sila doon, no? Kaya nga sila naging peer reviewer, no? So in a peer review, no, if you cannot see where you are going as someone who has been there before, and these mga peer reviewers na to, mga bihasa na to magsulat. That's why they can see the fault, or they can see some errors, or they can see something that can be improved further in our material. Okay, next please. All right. So as a reviewer, no, usually they will be presenting, no, a clear decision. Walang gray area. Walang umiikot behind the bush at huhulaan mo kung anong decision niya. No? Sinasabi niya sa'yo yung decision niya. Okay? And then they will also consider, of course, the quality of your manuscript. Meron silang guide, no, na fina-follow. Okay? Appropriate ba siya dun sa journal, etc. Okay? And then, if we have seen that, you have to check out their recommendation. Okay, they have to check out their recommendation to every part, not to every part of your material. And normally, the reviewers will also offer specific and constructive suggestion to author. Alam mo, nakakatuwa, may experience ako before. There was this paper I submitted in a journal. The peer review was par excellence, really very good. But I got rejected in that journal. Okay? Pero ang ganda ng review. So what I did, I transformed my paper using that review and resubmitted to another journal. And you know what? Minor comments. Accept agad. No? So that's the beauty of a peer review process. No? May nakakita na. No? May nakakita na paano to? Ano bang errors nito? Okay? So if you tend to see the first time yung peer review, ay naku, nakaka-crush talaga siya ng heart. Minsan, meron kami mga title sa aming mga, anong tawag natin dito? Ang aming title sa aming mga reviewer ay si Rebecca Vavaji, ang Echoserang Frog. Yan. Kasi minsan talaga, it's masyadong harsh. No? It's really, they are really harsh. But you see, when you try to check na yung mga list ng corrections, it works. No? It's very constructive naman pala. Pero syempre, di ba, ang unang reaction talaga natin, bruha to? Maganda ba siya? Yan, yung mga una nating reaction. No? But of course, through time, ando na yung humility, no? Through time, after so many rejections, ando na yung humility na, okay, I would be correcting my errors and improve my material. No? Okay, next, please. Okay, eto na yung mga decisions na pwede mong makuha kapag nag-submit ka. Siyempre, yung number 1, hindi ko man sinasabing palagi, ha? Baka naman ma-dishearten kayo. Ay, rejection. Ayan. Ay, nako. We regret. Pag we regret pa lang, ika-crush ko na yung papel na yun, i-off ko na yung email na yun, iinom na ako ng kape, kakain ako ng ice cream, magpapaparlor, yan, magagawin ko na yung mga ganyang bagay. And then, saka ako babalikan yung letter. Okay? Rejection are normal, no? Sabi ko sa inyo kanina, may mga reasons for rejection. Halimbawa, outside the coverage area ng journal, no? Nagpupumilit ka mag-submit sa nature, ang objective mo isa lang. Okay? Tapos titest lang yung ating ginawa, 'di ba? Tapos nature, gusto ko nature, bakit ba, no? So, tignan mo rin 'yun, no? Baka kasi yung iba doon sila nare-reject. Okay? O kaya, meron talagang serious flaw. May serious flaw talaga sa study design, sa methodology, sa pag-analyze mo or sa pag-interpret mo. And the reviewers can see that, no? And of course, sometimes yung limited novelty, no? Nagawa na yan 10 years ago, sinusulat mo pa rin ba na may antibacterial property ang bawang? Diyos ko, bata pa si Fashion, approved na yan. Yung ganon, at pinagsusumiksik mo sa science at sa cell, di ba? So, pag ganon, meron talagang rejection, no? Kaya nga sabi natin kanina in my previous slides, you really have to check out, no? Ano muna yung gusto ni journal bago ka mag-submit. Okay? Next. Okay, the next decision will be rejection, pero ini-invite ka namang mag-revise. Yan. O kaya resubmit. No? So, ang ibig sabihin nito, they have a potential. Now, your paper has a potential, pero with dun sa kanyang form or current form, hindi pa siya ready. Okay? Kailangan pa siyang pagandahin ulit. No? You need to reorganize the concepts perhaps, restructure, baka may kailangan kang idagdag na experiment, baka may kailangan kang i-modify na analysis, make it more robust, to make it more relevant, no? So, yun yung ni-reject ka, pero sinabihan ka ng invitation to revise, no? Na pag sinubmit mo ulit, pwede na nilang i-accept, no? And next, please. Yes, of course, acceptance. Yan, Papa Pizza, Papa Karne, Papa Soju. Yan ang ating normal dyan sa Korea, di ba? So, pag may na-accept na paper, party time ito, no? Lasingan time, no? So, in a very few cases, no, a manuscript may be accepted for publication on the first reading. Anak ka ng Diyos, di ba? Yung only minor revisions required. Kaya kung nakatanggap kayo ng ganito, ayun magpa-party ka, no? But this is not all the time, no? Sometimes, yung iba, the big bulk of the percentage would go that acceptance ay may provisional, may provisional, anong tawag dito, a requirement that you have to answer the reviewer, no? But once it's accepted, ay nako, it would enter the production phase. Either it will have DOI already, you can show it to your friends via your Facebook. Look, my paper already on the blah, blah, blah. And andun na sa Facebook page mo. And then later, papamudmud mo yung printed na journal sa iyong mga family and friends. Yan, sa pag-acceptance, no? So, it would really depend if the journal have a printed version and an online version. Okay? Next, please. Ayan, sino ang isasali mo? So, the nuts among the bolts. Sino po ang kasama sa authorship issues? No? So, actually, sa authorship issues, this is a matter of research integrity. No? Marami na ngayong discussions over that. Meron din kasing prerogative, yung mga sinasawag nila na gift authorship. Marami dyan. Oo. So, like, halimbawa, nilagay kong co-author si Jubert. Kung nalaman ni Jubert sa mikrobyo, yung mga ganyan. O kaya, kino-author niya ako bigla, ano mo pakialam ko sa cardiac muscle, may puso ba si E. coli? Yung mga ganyan, no? So, magugulat ka talaga. But sometimes, yun, may mga agreement yan sila. But technically, ito yung acceptable reasons why people should be included, no, in your authorship. No? Ngayon, kapag meron kayong paper na hindi nasama si kuya o si ate at nandito pala siya sa requirements na to, hala, lagot ka. It will haunt you for the rest of your life. Char lang, syempre. No? Okay, number 1. This person has substantial contribution when you conceptualize your idea. Andun ba si ate? Andun ba si kuya? Okay. Yung nag-analyze kayo, yung nag-acquire kayo ng data, yung nag-interpret ng data. Andun ba siya? Next, yung nagda-draft ka na, okay, ng inyong manuscript. Nag-contribute siya, nag-edit siya, no? Critically talaga to help improve your material. Very, very important for the intellectual content. Nandun ba siya? And of course, number 3, during the final approval of the version, no, meron pa yan kasing paki-check yung copy na to, final edits, etc. Nandun din ba siya? When a person fulfills the 3 requirements, may case siya maging author te. Pag di mo siya sinali, away to. No? Ngayon, pag may sinali naman si kumare at si kumpare na hindi nagpo-fulfill dyan, alam nyo na, gift yon, no? Yung gift authorship yan. No? So, may mga ganun-ganun. Pero like halimbawa, tinulungan ka lang pagpara ng bus papuntang Busan para makonduct mo yung experiment mo, hindi po siya kasama sa authorship. Okay? Kung talaga napaka-crucial ng tulong niya sa pagpara ng bus na yon para sa'yo, lagay niyo po siya sa acknowledgement. No? Kasi there are times that some people are listed as co-authors, but you know, they are just influential in securing a permit to gather the material, for instance. Acknowledgement lang po yun. No? So, hindi siya nagpo-fulfill ng ating three tawag dito, requirements. No? So, this is ICMJE. Nakalimutan ko yung ano niyan. Pero international blah, blah, blah yan ng acceptable rule. No? So, that is the most important thing. It's ethical, and it's about integrity to only include the authors that are responsible for that material. Kasi pag nagkagulo, retraction, di ba? Na biglang kiniklaim nyo na anti-cancer, hindi pala. Kasama po kayong lahat dyan. Keso hoda, nahila lang yung pangalan mo dyan. Responsible ka po dyan. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. Alright, and then after that, after your first paper, I'm sure meron ka ng paper 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., etc. So you have to build your impact through your publications. No? So you can start creating your research gate. No? Pwede kayong mag-share ng mga papers nyo dito or data that you would like to share with your followers. No? So creating a research gate would also tell you, may nagbasa na ba ng papel ko? May nag-cite na ba? No? Kasi pag nakita mo, wala pa nagsasite, naku, patay, hindi yata na-open ang lahat, abstract lang. No? Baka ganon. You have to check those particular things. Okay? Next, please. And then also, dito mo rin makikita yung impact mo. You can have your Google Scholar with you. No? So dito, mini-measure nila yung H-index. No? So, ibig sabihin nun, maraming tao na naniniwala dun sa mga sinulat mo. No? So, they will be citing your information. Okay? Next, please. And then, I don't like to limit science communication or data dissemination to just journals. No? You can use social media. No? You can use social media, like for instance, Twitter. No? Pwede rin ang Twitter sa outside ranting. No? Also, madalas ako mag-rant dyan. Pero, naglalagay din ako dyan ng mga may sense. ng mga may sense, no? And then, natutuwa ako na minsan, kahit yung mga information is masyadong technical, like it's all about my viruses or my antibiotic resistance or my protein modeling, blah, 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 merong mga nakaka-appreciate sharing it o kaya commenting something or just liking it, no? Next, please. Ayan. Okay, so are you ready to write your material? I hope that those particular tips and at least nabigyan kayo ng parang imagination and asa na ba ako, no? Kasi minsan kahit ika-fifth paper mo na, it's really very difficult for you to still start. I hope these tips somehow will be helping you, no? I think that's my last slide, Bert, no? Okay, so thank you again, PIKO, and thank you everyone for being here. I'll be very excited to talk about while answering your questions in a little while. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Len Parungao, for that very, very informative presentation. And I found myself agreeing to like probably 100% of what you said, especially like towards the dulo na peer review, like very grueling ng naging experiences ko dyan with peer review. Kasi like for example, ipasok ko na rin siguro dito yung question ko with peer review. Kasi for example, when you get yung peer review, usually hindi lang naman yung isa, diba? Like 4 people, 5 people at most. And then sometimes 2 or 3 of them would have very differing opinions and like very opposite reviews regarding your experiment. For example, yung isa will agree with you, while yung isa naman sasabihin na this is not correct or do something else about it. So in your experience po, like how do you manage to reconcile those differences na biniring up doon ni na reviewers?
I'm sure marami ring nakaka-relate dun sa nangyari kay Jubert. No? Nangyari sa akin yan before, I think 1 or 2 papers. Yung reviews, completely opposing what should my manuscript
Right.
contain. No? So like halimbawa, ito lang naman ang gusto kong sabihin. Okay? And then these are the evidences. And it supports my conclusion. No? However, for instance, si reviewer 1, no? Si reviewer 1, sasabihin niya, hindi, kailangan mo pang magbigay ng ganto. Ito
Right.
namang isa, pwede na to, pero kailangan mo pa to, kumbaga opposing, no? So, you know what I did? Di mo naman kailangan halikan sa paa ang mga reviewer, no? Not all the time, no? You can always say, thank you for your suggestion, no? I think it is very relevant. However, I would like to stick, no, to on how I'm disseminating this data using this platform, no? And then I would explain, no? Kaya ito lang test ang ginawa ko kasi ganyan-ganyan. Okay? Kaya walang animal models kasi yung ethics sa amin strict. Yung mga ganon-ganon. That's why in lieu of an animal model, I use cell lines. Yung mga ganon. So, pag in-explain mo namang mabuti, no? Like what we did before, they accepted naman, no? Kasi ang mga reviewers din naman sa point of view rin nila minsan sila nagko-comment na ay kung ako yan, gagawin ko yung ELISA. Ruha, wala akong ELISA. Yung mga ganon, no? So, dahil wala akong ELISA, ito yung ginawa ko, which is equivalent. No? So, parang ganon. And they eventually said, okay, I think if you use that particular method instead, can you please, ano pinagawa niya sa akin? Kasi yung conclusion, pina-soften niya no? So that, hindi naman siya masyadong buhat bangko na itong methodology lang na to yung ginamit mo. Tapos, pang ELISA level yung conclusion.
In my experience din naman po, like, mayroong mga reviewers talaga na they try to soften din yung way ng pagpasok nila ng comment nila. Like, if possible, kung magagawa mo lang naman, if you have this kind of these materials or assays in your laboratory, maybe you can do it. But pag wala, you try to find na lang daw yung mga supporting literature, mga ganon. Pero like, in my case, meron pa rin talaga na medyo medyo out of line na parang wala sa I mean masyadong limit yung kanyang view, like this should be how you do it, napaka-strict ng kanya. So parang
ang savior mo, Jubert, would be the editor-in-chief, no?
right.
So normally when reviewers are clashing on the decision of the manuscript, the editor-in-chief steps in, no? So meron naman akong role, akong role ko naman doon ay reviewer, no? So, meron akong pinakitang highlights that I don't really think that the paper can be published because of a flaw in the methodology or a flaw in analysis ata yun. Basta, kumbaga, ito yung method, ito yung stat. Completely no. Sabi naman nung isang reviewer, hindi, pwede na yan pagtiyagaan. Ang sa akin, I stand by my ground. So, what the editor-in-chief did is, kumuha pa siya ng isang reviewer, and then nung nag-agree kaming dalawa, the editor-in-chief decided, no? So kumbaga ligtas na kami diyan na, ikaw na bahala. So normally the editor-in-chief will be the last to decide if there will be conflicts between the review of
Yun nga rin po yung like based on my experience din when I wrote naman yung review paper. Kasi like there were just 2 reviewers kasi. Like one was parang pinuna niya. Like, both of them actually pinuna yung language na ginamit. One was like, okay, 5 stars because native language speaker. Kasi like, ini-indicate mo naman dun yung country of origin mo, like yung Philippines or South Korea. Pero isa, he gave like 1 star. Like, super bad daw ng grammar na ginamit, serious lapses in judgment. So para ako, like, how do you reconcile it? One was like 5 star, one is like 1 star. So, inangat namin with the editor-in-chief. And sabi niya, kung may yung minor na lang yung palitan mo. Kasi like, meron din like minor spelling errors, but like to give 1 star over like serious flaws, ganyan yung pagkakasabi niya kasi. But when you look at his review naman, like yung review din naman niya, may serious flaws in grammar errors. So parang, to some point, medyo offending din. Medyo galing ka Asia, you might not be good with English, di ba? Parang, Sakit din.
Ako tip for everyone, no? I don't really see reviewers as evils, no? Yung mindset siguro, kasi nung before nag-uumpisa rin akong sulat, I always figure them or imagine them as witches. Pero ngayon, I imagine them as someone who will be really constructive. They may have a limited vocabulary. Kaya minsan yung mga choice of words nila minsan masyadong hurting. So yun yung tinitingnan ko at the back of my head, it always like that. So that I would objectively see or check kung ano yung gusto niyang ipagawa sa akin. So that would clear any emotional stuff na ano. Pero dati ganun din ako, kung nag-aaway din ako. Ang tawag nga namin etchuserang frag. Kasi meron pa kaming niloloko pa namin. Bakit? Saan nakatapos ba siya ng pag-aaral? Yung mga ganun natin na drama, anthology, scripts, no? Pero actually, they are very constructive. Siguro kinukulang lang talaga sila ng words to use sa pagsulat doon ng comment.
I thought like si Erica, one of the students here also in Korea, sabi niya she has something to say though in relation to this. So I'll unmute her, like Erica.
Sure.
Erica, naka-unmute ka na ba? Hello, Erica. Okay ka na, Erica? Ay, parang di ako narinig ni Erica. Erica?
Okay.
Ayan. Hi, Erica.
Hello. Can I just say something dun regarding sa language? Kasi na-experience ko rin yan recently na parang basta may pinapakorrect siya sa language at saka actually sa units yata even the little things like that, diba, na yung units, yung numbers, yung units, may space ba dapat to? Wala. Kasi dumaan na kasi yung paper namin sa editing. Lagi kami nagpa-edit. Kahit ako yung nagsulat, ipapa-edit namin. Kasi nga, yung sabi ni ma'am kanina na kapag nakailang ulit ka na talagang basa, sawang-sawa ka na, ayoko nang makita to, pa-edit na natin. Tapos habit talaga yun din ng Koreans, diba? Talagang gusto na ipa-edit. So ang ginagawa, like, I think another friend, naglalagay talaga sila ng acknowledgement that we thank this company, this editing company, and we have the certificate for editing. Tapos, yung ginawa ko naman din, kasi alam kong tama yung grammar ko, alam ko tama yung designation ng units ko, nag-cite talaga ako ng grammar style guide at saka ng SI style guide. So pwede yung gawin kasi hindi naman perfect din yung reviewers. Kaya yun. You can cite, you can contest. If you feel you're right, stick to it. Basta make sure you also have your reference.
Right, I agree kasi like in some of the journals din na napagsendan namin, most of like some of them also ask na rin niya yung certificate of editing na rin.
Yes.
Sa first submission mo pa lang, sometimes ina-ask na nila if you have this certificate, i-upload mo na rin together. So I think ang problem lang siguro is if outside ng Korea is baka medyo hindi practical din na magbayad.
Magpa-edit, actually. Sa Pilipinas, bakit pa?
Oo. Like, pangalawa, kasi sa Korea, like, they have funding naman for that. Some of them in the Philippines, hindi naman ganun kalaki din yung budget to afford that. Kasi, like, let's be honest, nasa $1,000 or more depending sa dami ng editing na gagawin din sa paper, di ba? So, kung pwede sana na if you have that option to do it, might as well do it. Kasi I agree with Erica. No? Meron ka talagang malalagpasan dyan. Kahit ilang beses mo nang i-edit yan, meron ka pa rin ma-overlook na parts. Hello, ilang months mo nang sinusulat yan, minsan year na nga. Sawang-sawa ka na rin talagang basahin yan. Might as well, I ask for someone na lang din to professionally read it. Diba? I think thank you for that contribution, Erica. I love it's a really good point. So, Ama, meron tayong mga questions actually from the audience. Wow. Mayami to. Some of our officers from PIKO actually collected it. Mickey will be reading some of these questions to Dr. Parungao. And Mickey, can you?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, start us off.
Okay, so I think this is a question If you can elaborate more on the discussion part.
Like,
tanong. Like, because, I don't know, because sabi niya, parang na-miss ko yung discussion part na elaborate ba. So, maybe more like tips on how to write the discussion part.
How to write the discussion part?
Yes po, ma'am pa.
There is no universal way to write. Ano talaga siya, kanina nagbigay ako ng tip on how you could start writing your part, no? So sabi ko, you could organize first, you search, and then, sandali ha, meron akong breathing problem.
Take your time.
Organize, and then in an Excel file, no? Meron ba ako, Jubert, I think a slide there about the
sige po.
discussion part.
Oh, sorry.
Parang parts of an article ata yan. Tapos kasama niya yung, baba pa, kasama niya yung result. Yan, okay. So, yan, sabi ko dito, no, the discussion is actually an interpretation and an explanation of your results, no? So, sabi ko din kanina na it can be separately written from the results or it can be together, no? What works for me in writing discussions is that I really have this organized review of literatures in my Excel sheets, no? Kunyari, Journal 1, ito yung matters na important na related sa sinusulat kong paper, okay? Journal 2, etc., etc. And then I will be grouping them in topics and then later on form them into paragraphs, no? The important or the significant thing in discussion is that you will not be dumping, no, review of related literature. No, iba siya sa RRL, no? Discussion is explaining, no? Explaining your result. If you see a trend, sabi mo sa result mo, there's an increasing trend of temperature when exposed to this variable. Bakit? Ba't ganun? Bakit mo na-observe yun? Yun yung sa discussion. Okay? And then, kapareho ba siya ni literature 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Or hindi? O sino sa kanila yung kapareho? Sino sa kanila yung iba? So nakita mo na merong nag-agree, nakita mo na merong hindi nag-agree. Bakit hindi nag-agree? So it's like clearing the way, no? It's like clearing the way or explaining what happened, no? So that's the discussion part. Minsan nakakakita ko during a role, no, as a reviewer, makikita nyo na parang RRL yung kanilang discussion. Don't forget to refer to the results that you generated pagsulat mo ng iyong discussion. So one discussion paragraph talks about one result. Okay? And then paragraph by paragraph. And then you'll have the last paragraph, which will be knitting them all together so that you will be describing how that thought or that findings, contribute to the overall field of study. I hope I answered your question.
Okay. So the next question is, how can you determine the order of authors if there are many contributors in the paper?
Okay. I don't believe in order. although technically, sinasabi nila na kapag nasa unahan ka, ikaw ang bibo. Kapag nasa huli ka, ikaw yung lola. No? That is the prerogative of the supervisor, no, or the corresponding author. No? Normally, in practice, yung mga nasa una or nasa pangalawa, sila yung may kinalaman sa experimentation, analysis, and writing of the article. The rest na tsuwariwap, whether sinamahan ka mag-overnight, sabay kayo nag-PCR, tinulungan ka mag-design ng primer, etc., etc. Okay? But it's always the prerogative of the supervisor or the lead or principal investigator ng study where that data came from. No? So, may mga notion ngayon na sinasabi nila na wala nang importance talaga yung order. Kaya ginagawa nila minsan alphabetical. No? But of course, in practice pa rin, sa maraming academe, kung sino yung nauna, at pangalawa, no, hindi ko lagi inaalis yung pangalawa eh. Kasi na-experience ko kahit na pangalawa ako eh, ang dami-dami kong nagawang contribution dun sa paper. So kaya after that, hindi na talaga ako naniniwala sa ano bang tawag yan? Billing? Sa billing, no? But in practice, theoretically, the first and the second authors has something to do, bulk, malaking porsyento ng experiment, data analysis, and writing the draft. The rest, summary up ng edits.
May follow-up question po ako, ma'am, actually. How about naman po pagdating with corresponding author? Kasi I've read in some instances na yung corresponding author, ang ginagawa nila is they put kung sino yung nakakuha ng grant funding or yung principal investigator for that project. But yung iba naman sinasabi na dapat talaga is almost similar with kung sino yung first author or kung sino yung nag-lead ng project talaga. So in your opinion po, like who should be or who should be designated as yung corresponding author?
Okay. For me, my opinion, kailangan ilagay nyo yung corresponding author na willing, ano bang tawag doon? Kasi minsan ang sabi nyo, ilagay mo corresponding author to kasi pag ilagay mo siya, tapos nakita ng mga reviewers, ay kay ano pala to eh. Pero ano yun. Ano? Pero kasi normally it's the principal investigator. Normally it's the lead investigator who will be the corresponding author. Kasi siya yung magko-communicate eh. No? Ang role talaga ng corresponding ay nagko-communicate. In short, secretary. No? Siya yung supervisor and to assign someone else corresponding author. Perhaps, for instance, malay ko bang sagutin yan? Diba? So, corresponding author niya ay yung first author. Why not? No? So, ang importante doon, the corresponding author takes full responsibility of communicating with the journal publisher. Kaya huwag kayo masad kung, ay, ika-3 ako, ika-4, or kagaya nung kay Jeffrey Mancera, ika-99 siya. It doesn't matter, no? As long as you know that your contribution is there, that's the most important thing.
Agree. Okay, Nikki, continuing questions.
Next question is, how to best write the review of literature?
I'm sorry, how?
How to best write the review of literature?
Is that the question of Anne? I think I answered Anne through a chat.
Yes.
It's like yung Excel spreadsheet, no? It works for me. Kasi once you organize all madadrown ka kasi sa dami ng journals na makikita mo eh, no? And then you just pick, no, the most important things in that journal article at ilagay mo siya dun sa Excel. So para kang may database of information, no? And then kung kailangan mo lang mag-form ng 1, 2, 3 sentences, alin dito sa mga to ang makakatulong sa akin? And then you cite those papers.
And I think so far ito na yung last question. Is it okay to write the abstract first after getting the statistical results?
Well, it depends if it works for you, no? But of course, most of the time, you will still go back to that abstract if meron kang kailangan ulit baguhin, no? Kaya usually sa end siya. Pero kung merong mga people that are more comfortable, sabi ko nga yung sa akin na map kanina, those are the map that works for me, no? You can tweak, no? You can troubleshoot, and you can finally craft your own map kung saan kayo comfortable, kung ano yung sa tingin nyo will work for you. Okay?
Meron tayong bagong question pa from Jean de la Cruz. In writing a review article, when can you say that you already have enough articles to review?
Okay. Ayoko siyang ipeg as numbers. Like halimbawa, if I have say 10 or 20 journals, okay na siya. Hindi yun sa ganun eh. I have written some review articles. We normally have a backbone or an outline. Okay? So this particular outline have these questions that needs to be answered. Yun yung mga subheadings na sinabi ko kanina sa review article, no? Minsan merong topic na ang nakuha lang namin talagang journals ay 5 kasi 5 lang talaga yung nakaprint, wala na exhaust na namin lahat, no? But there are some topics that have like say 20, 30 ganyan, no? Kaya may makikita kayong review paper that sometimes the references are only say 60 at merong mga review articles that have more than hundreds of references, no? So I don't normally check the numbers ilan sila, but I check the value na nalagay nila doon, no, using the cited literatures. It may be just 5 or 10 or whatever, pero ang mahalaga dun sa mga headings na nilagay mo, substantial yung information na nilagay mo. How do you say substantial? Nasagot mo yung goal mo na saguting tanong.
Tsaka I would like to add din po, no, like, in some cases na po, when you submit a review article din, naka-indicate na rin most of the time doon sa journal guidelines na maximum how much you would have to put sana na review references sana in your paper. Like, some of them, like, you can go as many as 100, 200. Some review articles na they only limited to 50.
Meron nagli-limit, no?
May nagli-limit. So, I think it's also better din na beforehand, no, i-check nila yung submission guidelines to the particular journal they are submitting to. Para mamaya, napaka-bibo na nating magsulat pala, no? Naka 200 na tayo, pero the journal that we are submitting to pala, parang 50 lang ang limit, di ba? Parang sayang din naman yung effort na ginawa natin to write.
Pero kung for your peace of mind, Jean ba? Nanay Jean ba yun? If for your peace of mind, kung sa tingin mo talaga, kasi baka mamaya hindi ko lahat naman. So, search using more than one search engine. No? So, like, halimbawa, if you search PubMed, lipat ka sa kabila, lipat ka sa Google, lipat ka sa yung iba, madami tayong search engine Google lang kasi ang famous. Pero napakadami, no? So kung tapos ka na sa PubMed, you can go to Google Scholar and then next, no? So kung sa tingin mo, wala ka na makita, then perhaps okay na yon. I-organize mo ngayon siya sa saang useful itong articles nito using your Excel sheet. Sa akin, it works. I don't know how will you. Thank you.
Depende sa tao yan. Next po is, and there's another question, nakarelate daw po siya sa pagko-correct ng papers ng Korean lab mates. I guess someone from one of the students in Korea to. Up to what extent do you think it is okay to correct your lab mates' papers? Based on your experience lang din po. Kasi minsan, I feel that nagiging writing style ko na yung pagsusulat ko kapag nagko-correct ako ng papers.
At what extent? It depends on if you have a choice or no choice.
Totoo yan.
Of course, there are some papers na, andun talaga yung style. But ayaw mo nun, no? Magiging famous yung style mo. And every people would tell you, this is the style of Jubert Marquez. Ang sa akin kasi, I don't like to leave a certain paper na ine-edit ko na half-baked. Tapos ilalagay niya yung pangalan ko, kaya so nasa ikatlo, ika-4 ako. Ayoko. I will really try my very best. Everything ilalagay ko doon. Minsan nga gusto ko nang i-convince ang sarili ko na hindi mo yan papelin. Akala mo lang, no? Pero actually ikaw na nang gumawa ng lahat eh. Parang gano'n, no? Ikaw na talaga yung sumulat ng lahat. But sige lang, no? It's practice, no? I always see it as practice. I always see it as for my development, not sa kanilang development, di ba? Ikaw yung gumaling sa pagsulat, di sila. So, I always take it positively anyway. So, to what extent, it depends on you. Pag pagod ka na, sabihin mo, okay. Pero kung sa tingin mo, with all integrity, no, research integrity, talagang edit it as, you know, in-exhaust mo lahat ng powers mo. Na as if it's yours.
Right. ang mahirap din, like, in my experience din, no, I think nakarelate din yung some students dito, is like, for example, ako po kasi, like, I have several supervisors doing, like, in our laboratory, and when we do the discussion in a certain paper na we are currently writing, we have different styles. Si Professor 1, ganito yung style na pagsusulat. Si Professor 2, ganito yung pagsusulat. Si Postdoc, iba ang style. Tapos ako, iba din. While the meantime, ako yung main author kasi ako yung taga-edit, ako yung taga-sulat kasi ako naging English, pero ako rin yung gumawa ng data. Pero panig sila yung nagbigay ng comments sila, very iba-iba. So, ang hirap, super hirap. Mind-blowing na paano ko gagawin na iisa yung style naming lahat. Kasi, or to some extent, paano ka mag-adjust or i-adjust mo yung sarili mo dun sa styles ng iba para lang ma-accommodate sila.
The main deciding factor for that will be the journal where you will submit. No?
Right.
So minsan kahit iba-iba kayo ng style, but the journal says it should be like this.
Right.
Then follow that. You can always justify naman to your supervisor. Pero sabi po kasi dito sa journal, ganito gagawin.
Totoo. Kaya most of the time din po ganun ako. Like, to my professor, kikisunin na parang, ganito po kasi yung parang style na hinahanap nila. So, sinasabi ko sa kanya. Sometimes, alam mo naman, Korean professors, medyo sila, ayaw pa pagalaw. Pero pag may proof ka naman papakita mo ganito, so, bumibigay din naman sila.
Yes.
I have another... Ma'am, ang daming questions actually. Sorry.
Sige lang, go. I would like to chika. Go.
Question po from Kamar Amiriel. What is your opinion of the case when a thesis student have original idea for his or her study, but later on, during publication or presentation, the advisor becomes the first author?
Okay. Well, I don't know about you, but in my lab, in my case, no, meron kaming usapan yan. First pa lang, no? So first introduction pa lang naming magnananay, na academic nanay, meron na kaming usapan. No? I always value integrity, no? And I always value the contribution of the students. So ang usapan namin is ganito. Pag thesis student kita, nagsulat ka, ikaw talaga nagsulat, first author ka.
True.
Okay? Alam ko ako mag-i-edit, ako magpapaganda niyan, ako magsasubmit niyan, but still, the working material to start with is theirs. So, kanila yan. No? Yun ang usapan namin. Pero, pag sakali na pagka-graduate nila, wala na silang pakialam. And then, they didn't even leave you any material to start with. Then, yun yung nagiging first author ako. No? So, ako yung nagiging first author. Or if ever, i-merge ko yung dalawang thesis. Kasi magka-relate sila. So, i-merge ko yon, and then, ako yung magiging first author. Well, it really depends on ano kasi yung storya na isusulat. And it would really depend sa usapan din yung dalawa, thesis advisor at saka estudyante. It would be unfair for the student if idea niya, resources niya, siya yung nagsulat, and then the first author would be the thesis advisor. That's wrong, no? I mean, ethically, integrity-wise, that's very wrong, no? Pero meron din kasi mga estudyante, no, na binigyan ng idea ng teacher dahil may under ka sa project, at siya rin yung nag-analyze nung kumbaga technically, ganun. So, pag-uusap niyo na lang. Sa akin, I would always value the contribution of students. No? Kung nararapat naman silang gawing first author, why not? It doesn't matter.
At another question po, advice niyo po para sa students na matagal nang na-stuck sa sinusulat nila?
Na-stuck sa kinukuha nila.
Sinusulat.
Sinusulat. Ay, nako, may moments din akong ganyan, Like, for instance, I have a paper na nagsimula ako ay 2017, 2018. So, imagine, it's a 2018 data. Anong petsa na, no? Hanggang ngayon, nasa tables and figures pa rin ako. So it would really depend, no? Kasi pagbalik ko dito sa Pilipinas, completely na iba yung buhay ko na iba talaga yung niya. So I have to adjust. So kung stuck ka, balik ka ulit doon sa basic ko na sinabi kanina. Kasi I will always go back to that. How will I start? Saan ako gagawa na room? anong time, saan ako may inspire. Kapag na-identify ko na yon, pwede ko nang simulan yung table and then yung figure. Unti-unti. No? So, be kind to yourself. Wag mong i-overwhelm ang sarili mo na, o sige, ngayong araw na to, ang susulatin ko ay results and discussion. Galing mo, te. Hirap yun, ha? Wag ganun, no? Hindi ganun yung approach to writing, no? And in any work, hindi ganun yung approach. Talagang little by little, small steps. Alam ko may deadlines tayo. So, be mindful of the deadline without overwhelming yourself. No? So, iaano mo talaga siya. Ika-calendar mo talaga siya.
Parang I agree na. Ako din, sa mga sinusulat ko, minsan talaga, writer's block na parang, paano ba? Ano pang pipigain ko? Parang you're stuck talaga. Na parang kahit anong ikot mo, anong tayo mo, meron talagang time. So, parang allow yourself to breathe talaga. Parang,
ang danger lang doon, kapag masyado ka ng stuck, and then your idea is novel, pwede ka maunahan. No?
Yeah, right.
Or, for instance, tawag dito, panis na yung data mo. No? It's not relevant anymore. No? Halimbawa, gusto mo magsulat sa COVID, tapos na-stuck ka after 19 years, finally nagka-time ka na magsulat, salamat, papasok na. Pero it's not relevant anymore. So, tignan mo rin yung relevance ng iyong sinusulat, no? Use it as a push, no? As an inspiration for you to, hey, start working your butt around, or else mapapanish yung data mo.
That's true. Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Malapit na rin tayo matapos na po. So, siguro po, last, na lang po, like, parting words or tips po para sa mga researchers or students dito with regards to writing. Ano na lang po yung masasabi niyo?
Okay. Siguro, my major takeaway would be, you cannot, hindi mo to pwedeng takbuhan. You have no choice but to do it. Okay. Kailangan mo talaga magsulat. Kailangan mo talaga mag-disseminate ng information. Normally, ang ginagawa ko sa estudyante ko para medyo mag-grasp nila yung idea na magsusulat na sila is pagpapresentin ko muna sila sa conference. Why? Because they get to practice how to write the abstract. Diba? So, in that way, they will have an idea ano ba yung gusto kong ikwento dito sa napakadami kong objective sa thesis ko. And then I will ask them, gusto mo ba talaga isulat lahat yan sa iyong publication? O alin dyan ang importante lang? Okay? So, admit it that wala kang choice, gagawin mo talaga siya. And then the second one is, maraming paraan. No? So there are so many things that could support you, no, or help you, no, into writing, no. So yun nga, you really need, if you need the body, go get, no. If you need the food, kain ka, no. If you need to travel muna before writing, go. So kumbaga, love yourself while doing this particular thing to the people, no. So imagine niyo, hindi naman para sa iyo yung pagsulat talaga, no. Ang para sa iyo lang nito is for your development in your career. But the most special thing is para to sa stakeholders mo. They need to know what's going on.
True.
No? So kung pondo pa ng gobyerno ang binigay sa iyo, responsibility mo na ikwento sa taxpayer kung anong resulta ng research mo, di ba?
Tama, I agree na.
So kaya niyan. The paper number 1 will always be the hardest.
True.
But eventually, you'll get the hang of it. And ilista nyo lang kung ano yung mga best practice nyo and keep it that way.
Agree. Like, makikilala mo rin yung styling, yung method of writing mo along the way.
Right.
Mahaba-haba ang maging experience with
kayo yung makaka-decide noon, di ba? Tatak nyo yun.
Kaya everyone has their unique writing style talaga.
Yes,
so
yes.
you have yung for you talaga kung ano yung sayo, kailangan ikaw yung makaalam nun. Like, don't base it on. Pwede mo i-base early on, pero later on, you have to adjust it according to what you are talaga. And at the end of the day, what you do is hindi lang para talaga sa atin, achievements, pero talaga to sa mga stakeholders, for everyone who would benefit from our research talaga, yung mga pasyente, yung mga halaman dyan, and everyone else. So with that, I am very happy po for today's webinar, and I am very grateful to Dr. Marilen Parungao Balolong for sharing her expertise and especially time na kahit na weekend. I'm nakakahiya minsan na humiling kay Dr. Len, but thank you.
Jubert, there's a question here about reckoning.
May pahabol po ba? Okay.
This is very important. No? This is very important. Kailan yung pwede mo pang i-publish yung data mo? No? So, kasi merong mga information na panis na. No? Technically, kung gusto mo maging strict, no? A data 2 years old and beyond ay panis na, no? Panis na sa bilis ng science ngayon. Medyo mahirap na. Unless may mga data may mga data kang luma, then you conduct a new one to support it, then you can again parang use it as a new data, no? So kung recording, halimbawa kung 10-year-old data na siya, is it still relevant? Yun kasi yung itatanong mo sa sarili mo, relevant pa ba ito na i-chismis ko? Kunwari, i-chismis ko sa inyo kung sinong jowa ni Andres Bonifacio. Diyos ko, relevant pa ba yun? Diba? So parang wala na. So titignan nyo na rin, what is the value of that data? If it will be published now, is it still, useful? Kung hindi na, probably you have to have another set of experiment that would be parallel or maybe magandang joining or supporting
or like outgrowth
and then have a new story.
Right. Baka mamaya early.
Kasi Lotis question ni Lotis.
Sorry at natabunan siya ng mga messages. I apologize po. Pero agree na. Baka mamaya wala na yung novelty.
Thank you pala sa puro mga taga-UP Manila tsaka yung iba kong estudyante.
Mga fandom.
Bumati parang artista.
Pero
so, aking mga childies.
We're very grateful for your time today. Sana next time meron pa uli.
Anytime.
Sana baka maulit at maraming mihirit.
Oo, sure, anytime. I would really be excited to share kasi itong journey na to yung talagang gusto kong i-share na kung nahirapan ako magsulat noon, tas medyo madali na siya sa akin ngayon.
Totoo.
Oo. So I'm mentoring faculty members of the CAS UP Manila, and they are now writing, they are now publishing. So how much more, no? Na kayo na sobrang nagsisimula. I would be very glad to support everyone.
Magsiset na talaga tayo for next time.
Yes, of course.
Alam na, ma'am, ha? Again, thank you so much for your time today. We'll be inviting everyone with a copy of the presentation later on kapag pag na-upload na namin sa cloud. And also, the files will be forwarded if Dr. Lynn is okay with it for those na nag-ask ng files. Maraming nag-ask po ng PPT. If it's okay, baka pwedeng i-forward? So we will just email everyone later about sa evaluation form for the event, and hopefully in the next webinar that PIKO will be organizing, we will still have your support. And until then, have a good night or good afternoon to the Philippines. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Trying to answer lang yung mga dito. Ma'am Hansel, thank you for watching.
Sige lang, ma'am, go lang. Reply lang.
Ma'am, hello from Mindanao pa yan siya si Mama. Thank you po.
Thank you, ma'am, talaga. I'm so happy for today.
Sa mga estudyante, MD, PhD students, hello.
Yung fan base mo, ma'am.
Mga best tayo sa UPM. Hello po sa inyo. Mga estudyante, dito rin sila. Para kung may show na Today with Ate Chris na lang babati
Today
ng
with Dr. Len Parungao.
Oo. Oo. Thank you.
Mama, alam na next time. Thank you talaga. Thank you. Sorry, nakuha ko ang iyong weekend, ha? Si Doc Len, nagbababay na siya doon sa iba.
Bye po.
Wala akong video.
Nagbabay siya.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi, Narana.
Bye po. Thank
Kumusta?
you po.
Ayan yung mga fanbase mo.
Thank you. Hi, Maf!
Hello daw, Maki. Hindi kaya ata madinig.
Hello. Oo, nakita ko umirit si Mafi. Thank you.
Hindi sila sa likod ko, ma'am.
Mga taga-Chonan. Thank you for
Mga Chonan.
watching. I miss Chonan na.
Oh, thank you.
Ate Erika. Hi, Melanie. Bakit ibang pangalan mo? Melanie ba talaga pangalan mo? Kaninong laptop yan? Sabi ko ne. Thank you sa inyo. Oo, ang dami pala from Mindanao. Oo, salamat kayo. Mga MSUIIT people, ano. Thank you for watching. Siyempre si Makoy nandito, tama ba? Kung may Mindanao, may Makoy.
From M to M, dulong M to another dulong M.
Oo. Thank you, Piko.
Oh, ma'am. Thank you.
Anytime. Tingnan ko baka may na-miss tayong
Napagbati.
Thank you rin kay Nanay Jean. Si Nanay Jean ay nasa Bicol. Di ba? Parang buong Pilipinas
Covered mo, ma'am, ang buong
audience
ang
mo.
Pilipinas, di ba?
Oo.
Pwede na
May from Visayas ba tayo dito? MSUIIT and MSU Marawi. Oh, thank you. Thank you sa inyo.
Pwede ka na maging politiko nga, ma'am, eh. Lahat
Ayoko,
ng probinsya
masyado ako
meron.
maganda para maging politiko. Sa ibang area ako tutulong. Hindi sa bahala na sila sa buhay nila dyan. Thank you sa inyong lahat. Ayan. I think I have answered naman na almost all questions in the chat box.
Sorry doon sa last question, hindi ko po napansin. Natabunan pala
Hindi
siya.
ko rin napansin kasi tinitingnan ko yung mga to sinasagot ko. Estudyante ko siya, PhD student namin sa UPLB.
Mga nag-thank you, nakahalo pala siya doon sa mga thank you na nag-greeting. Kaya hindi ko napansin.
Oo. Sa Korea kasi requirement ang sulat, di ba? Kung how many, it depends, no? Nagbabago.
Nararamdaman ko na yung pagod ni Erika.
Nagbabago every time. Oo, nagbabago every time. 1 year ngayon, next sem, 2 na pala, 3 na, hanggang sa forever.
Tapos, kargado mo pa ang buong lab kasi ikaw magsusulat.
Full price ng shipping. Filipino address to customer.
Ayan, yung PIKO po, kung gusto niyo mag-aral sa Korea, yung mga mga Kamindanao natin dyan, yan. Usually po, nag-post naman sila at sinishare ko rin naman po yun. Kung may mga universities na opening.
From time to time. Hindi ko na-plug ang website.
Hindi mo mapinlag yung PIKO, grabe ka. Sama may video ka about the org, ganyan.
Sa email na lang, magpapadala naman ako ng email.
Ayan, tama.
Okay lang po, ma'am, no, na I share yung PPT. I-PDF ko na lang. Yung PDF niyo po.
Oo, PDF para maliit din.
Apo.
Saka baka hindi naman nila ma-open yung keynote na.
Okay. Yung PDF na lang po. Tama. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Salamat. At mag-dinner naman po kami dito.
Oo, gabi na sa inyo, di ba?
Opo.
6 p.m. Sige.
Bye
Everyone. Sa Norway.
Erika, sa Hayo. Mag-Hayo ka, di ba, Erika?
Ate Erika. Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.